It's episode 165. Welcome into the Benches Cleared podcast, where we cover the best rivalry in all of sports. I am Jesse Gutierrez, and I represent the side of the San Francisco Giants.
And I'm Dave, representing the side of the Los Angeles Dodgers. A little quiet on our front the last couple days, so I guess we'll just talk some Giants and what else is going on around the league.
Yeah, I mean, might as well. You know what, though? I think we should. There is some Dodger stuff, right? There is some Dodger stuff. I think it's really weird that this Teoscar Hernandez situation is happening so slowly when it was about to come to a head. Are you starting to feel like it's not going to happen, or you still feel pretty confident?
I'm about 70-30.
Okay, 70.
I feel like I feel like he will come back, but there's a slight chance that pride, ego, something gets in the way, and he's like, "All right, I'm just gonna take the other deal." Yeah,
extra money, baby.
I feel like he wants to come back. That's a given, right? And I think that he overplayed his hand. If the reports were true that like once Soto got his deal, he's like, "Okay, hold up, let's think this over again, and let's see how much more I can get." If that's true, and the Dodgers are like, well, we're going to stand firm, then it's just, they're playing chicken. And unless somebody else comes in and it's like, we're going to give you more money or the years that you want, I think the Dodgers are going to be okay if he leaves, hey, we tried, we wanted you here, but good luck. You got paid. So.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing that's been coming out, right? That Roberts was like, it's Freeman, right? That was like, if he gets a better deal, we're happy for him, but we want him back.
I think that's just the battle of like the media. You know what I mean? Like throwing just so he can hear it. Then the agent will throw something back out like, oh, this team is interested. I think the Blue Jays would be the wild card. If they've already missed out on Soto, there's not a lot of hitters out there unless you're considering Alonso. Right. Tucker's gone, so that was probably the next best outfielder that was available. He's gone, so if they want to make a splash, I mean, why not Teoscar, right? So I think they'd be the wild card to threaten the Dodgers to take him. So we'll see how that plays out. I think they're still just in a stare down, waiting to see who gives.
Yeah, I the holdup is what, that fourth year, I'm guessing.
Yeah, there was a report also that supposedly he doesn't want any deferrals or something like that. I don't know how real that is, and if it is, who cares?
The Dodgers don't do a deal without deferrals. Like it goes against our DNA. If we don't do a deferral, it just makes no sense.
You come to LA, you take a deferral.
You're damn right. It's like, what if he asks? He might be asking for a suite, and it's like, well, we'll give you a suite in 5 years after the deal's over. Then you can have the suite once a week.
Hey, as long as they're treating his family right, I'm sure he'll consider them and come back.
We'll see how now that Devin Williams is off the table, which we'll get into in a minute. How likely do you think they're really serious about Tanner Scott? Because I think that's probably the weakest part. Besides the defense in LA is going to might be even close to New York-esque type stuff. But I think the second other area that might be to be improvement might be the back end of the bullpen. Tanner Scott, does it sound like is that something that you're really excited for, or would you rather have Williams?
Well, first of all, the defense is not going to be that bad.
It might be.
The offseason is not over. Teoscar's not back yet. We don't know what they're going to do.
That's true.
I believe in Mookie. We'll see what happens with that. But as far as Scott, I think you have to go after him, although his price probably just went up a lot because of the Devin Williams trade. But
yeah, right.
But you got Tucker in the National League. You've got Bryce Harper in the National League. You've got Soto now in the National League. So there's a bunch of tough lefties. And on the plus side, if Ohtani doesn't have to face him because Tanner Scott basically owns him, then that's another plus. So I mean, if you're gonna give money, it's never a good idea to give big bucks to a reliever. But I mean, you're the Dodgers. You're printing money. Why not?
Exactly. Just he'll get $500 a week, and then
the rest he can get when he's like 80.
Yeah, exactly. The deferrals will start at when he's 60 years old.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is kind of the thing too. Like if they do get like, there's no real like center fielders on the market am I missing anybody, or is there someone that they can maybe trade for, bring back Cody Bellinger, and then you can move Paz to a corner and Michael Conforto in left field.
Yeah, what is it? Cody Bellinger is the only one that's available. Like I don't know. I don't know what the plan is, but it seems like it's Teoscar or bust. I don't know what else they have as backup plans right now. So I don't know. I don't know what the
because I feel like the return for both of those guys were not nearly what I thought. I mean, we'll get into it in a minute, but Devin Williams got a number 4 starter and some random prospect that's not really that highly touted, right? And then,
well, I mean, I think they did all right, dude. I know Devin Williams is an all-star. He's a great elite closer. I understand it, right. But he's also in his last year. So they get to control Nestor Cortez, who right now we see how like crazy the amount you have to pay for a pitcher is. So you get a pitcher,
That's true.
He's an all right pitcher. He's going to do well in Milwaukee. And the other guy, you hope he does well. But I mean, I think they came out all right in that deal. If Williams has a good year, he probably tests the market.
Yeah.
And same thing with Tucker. Same thing with Tucker. We'll probably get into that too. But the same thing, he wants to test out free agency as well.
100%. How old is Kyle Tucker going to be for free agency? Does anybody know?
Does anybody know? Anybody here? Anybody?
Does anybody even know? What's the plan here?
Is he a Boris client?
I don't know, but he's 27 right now. Oh, he turns 28 before the start of the season. So he's going to go to free agency as 29. So it's not like he's super young. So
he's under 30.
He's under 30, so he'll probably get like 8, maybe 9 years because he's that good. Willie Adames got 7 years at 29. So obviously Kyle Tucker's a step above that. So a couple steps probably offensively and for value wise. So I'm sure he'll probably end up getting like, I don't think he's like Aaron Judge level, but I think he'll probably get, I don't know, 8 years, you think? 9 years maybe?
I was thinking 7, but I think we're in the ballpark.
If he's going to be one of the main, I'm not talking about, hey, what should you sign him for, but a team, because he's going to be the number 2 from Vladdy next year. He's probably going to get, I would say, probably 8 or 9 years.
But so here's the thing: like, who's going to be interested? Because the Mets are out, right? Unless they're looking like, hey, we're just going to pay whatever, and we're going to make a super team. So then they go after him. If the Dodgers have Teoscar. Is there space for him? I mean, you make space for a guy like Tucker, right? I'm assuming Conforto's gone after this year.
You figure it out.
I mean, I'm sure there'll be suitors, but I don't think it's going to cost you nearly as much as Soto, obviously. So there'll definitely be a lot of suitors. So I don't know. I think he'll get paid well, and he'll get the years he's looking for.
All right, and I think just because you mentioned Soto, I'm going to mention one thing. I think the entire world needs to apologize to Carlos Mendoza's son, who stated the Mets already offered him a $750 million deal. Do you know who I am? And it turns out they already did, and he was him. So, do you say sorry?
First of all, he went on a huge limb there, I don't
think he did. I think he knew.
Secondly, if anything, he was detrimental to the pursuit because they ended up having to pay more. If he would have just kept his capper shut,
that might have just been regular negotiations. That was just their first offer, $750.
What if it was like, oh, dude, we got him for $750, and then they're like, oh, this guy's yapping. You know what? Yankees, let's match that or go higher, and then they just kept going. What if what if that happened?
How do you backhand your kid? What do you do at that point when he almost gets you fired? That would So. But we have a lot of free agency stuff to get into, a lot of free agency stuff, a lot of trade stuff. And we're going to do that with a special guest, known for so much, especially on the Giants side, but he knows a lot about ball. So we're going to talk about everything. So let's welcome him in. And here he is, big Steven Rissotto. You guys know him from Rizzocast and the Shutdown Inning, also the producer of one of the producers in 95 The Game. Steven, how you feeling, my man?
I'm doing good, Jesse, Dave. Good to be with you guys on Benches Cleared. Hopefully this is a Benches Cleared brawl.
That's right.
And we have a good time, and we fight out some of the great baseball stories that's happening right now. But it's good to be here. I was telling you guys before we started this that last time I was on this podcast, I was like 12. So it's good to be back.
So now you're like 13 and a half. So technically, Dave can't even hit you in this brawl because that's
that was a completely different person. So I don't know how I feel about him yet. So yeah,
had a whole ethnicity change and all that kind of stuff. Operations nowadays is crazy. But I think the first thing we got to mention, right? I know it's kind of old news, but Willy Adames, you were at the press conference. You're able to ask a question. What was like the overall like vibes you got from the press conference? And I mean, you're in the know of everything. Can you just break the Corbin Burnes news already, or what?
Yeah, so I guess I'll start with the first one and completely tippy-toe around that last part. No. So the Adames press conference was good. I mean, it's a big addition for a lot of reasons. The Giants have never opened their pocketbooks like they've opened to Willy Adames. He obviously was the largest contract handed out by the Giants in their franchise history. And ironically, it was given out by the guy who had the biggest contract before him, which is Buster. And like, look, I mean, Adames isn't the aircraft carrier that the Giants have been after the past few years. He's not Harper. He's not Judge. He's not Ohtani. He's not of that stature, but he's a really good player that they're going to be able to have in the middle of the order. He mashes. He plays good defense at shortstop. The metrics were down a little bit last year, but he's got Matt Chapman next to him, and he's still a pretty good shortstop. He's going to hit homers. And from everything we've heard, he's just a great guy too, and a great energy in the clubhouse. That's what everybody has been saying. And there's longtime media in the Bay Area that have covered baseball for 30 plus years, and they're saying that they've never heard someone being hyped up this much in terms of their clubhouse presence. So Willy Adames is beloved by his teammates in Milwaukee and Tampa Bay. And just the vibes overall around the Giants, I think it's definitely a different vibe than the last 6 years with Farhan Zaidi. It seems like the direction is still not completely clear, but it's clearer than it was. And what I mean by that is you have Buster Posey in there, a guy who's never done this job before. And his only front office experience is, doing ownership stuff in those meetings. So it's different, but he's got guys around him that have experience negotiating, have experience with player acquisition, and they really wanted their guy. They got him. And when you hire Buster Posey, you don't hire him for a rebuild. And you especially don't hire him to get Willy Adames and then sit on your fingers for the rest of the offseason. This is not the only move. And the most important move is not your first, it's your second, because that determines the direction of your franchise. And Jesse, you mentioned Corbin Burnes. Giants are heavily interested in him. And there might even be some mutual interest there. He is a California guy, not Bay Area because he's from Bakersfield. And anybody that says Bakersfield is Bay Area will immediately get an argument from me. Just like Aaron Judge, they tried to say Linden was in the Bay Area. It's not. Bakersfield.
Anything you could do to just connect would be great. But the thing is with Bakersfield, I feel like nobody claims Bakersfield.
Because nobody wants to. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Nobody, I don't think has claimed Bakersfield as Southern California. I'm not even sure if the Central California, I guess where's it end Modesto to Bakersfield technically maybe, but no one. I don't know. I feel like Bakersfield never gets claimed. Sorry, Bakersfield.
Yeah, sorry, Bakersfield. Nobody wants to claim you. I go to the In-N-Out there on the way to Disneyland, so it's not really it's not really on my radar. But yeah, he's from there. There might be mutual interest, and also like the amount of suitors for him just has kind of gone down. Like the Yankees get freed. Crochet goes to Boston. Like it's just it's not the market it once was for him. And that means the options are limited. Like, are the Dodgers going to go spend on another starter when they have like 8 deep? Probably not. I mean, and
they're probably getting Roki Sasaki.
Yeah, I was just about to mention that. Like, they're high on him, but I just don't see. And my thing is like, where's Baltimore in this? Because he was such a good fit with them, and like, there's the report that Mike Elias, their general manager, just doesn't want to spend money, even though they're under a new ownership group. And usually when you're under a new ownership group, like, you tend to go off a little bit, right? Steve Cohen bought the Mets and they just like, boom, went off. And for whatever reason, it's not going to happen in Baltimore. And I'm wondering why that's not a fit or as much of a fit as being reported. But I think there's a good chance that Corbin Burnes is a Giant, but take what I say with a grain of salt, maybe. I don't know.
Well, are they just bidding against themselves at this point? Because like you said, Baltimore even refused to make a trade for Crochet. I mean, they got the pieces to make a move like that, and they just lost their ace, and they haven't done much. So
yeah, and they
Giants and distant everybody else at this point.
Yeah, and I think Snell, like the Giants could have traded Snell to Baltimore. I think Baltimore balked at that during the season. I guess the other team that I'm forgetting is Toronto. They're in on him too. And Toronto, like, we know they have a boatload of money out there because they've been involved in every free agent too, and they've lost out. I remember Ohtani was supposed to go to Toronto, and it ended up being the Shark Tank guy. So, I mean, there's different things that happen with that. They have a lot of money that they just want to spend, and
don't disrespect Shark Tank.
I love Shark Tank. I'm not disrespecting. I'm just saying.
It feels like Toronto is like the Giants this offseason. It feels kind of great that we're not the butt of the joke for this past like 5 years. It's seeming like it's going to Toronto, which is kind of unfair because they have a pretty good roster. They have Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Yep. They got Bo Bichette. They have some good starting pitching, but it seems like, I don't know if it's just people hate Canada. I don't know, but I don't know what's going on, but no one wants to take their money.
Yeah, I don't know enough about Canada to determine whether they hate
Let's
Canada
start
or not.
War. Let's badmouth Canada, say something crazy, and let's get some.
You're not far off.
Popping, dude.
Read the New York Times. You're not far off. But I think it's like. I think Toronto would be that other team, not Baltimore, but maybe that's who the bidding war would be. But I would think a Burnes decision. I thought it would come during the winter meetings, but we haven't gotten it yet.
Is Boston gone after getting Crochet, or would they still be in the mix?
I think they would still be in the mix too, but probably to a lesser extent. Crochet's an interesting one, and I guess we could kind of mention him. He's on the Chris Sale trajectory, right? Kind of, going from the White Sox to the Red Sox. And whenever I think of Garrett Crochet, I think of the way he didn't want to get traded, or he didn't want to he didn't want to pitch in the postseason if he wasn't extended or something like that. And that's what I think of when I think of him for whatever reason. But Boston's in a weird spot. They've kind of underachieved, and I want to know what their pitch was to Juan Soto about the direction of their franchise, because I don't think their farm system is that great. They do have money to spend, yes, but they're in a tough division, and they weren't that awful last year. So maybe they're just a few fixes. Yeah, maybe they're just a few fixes.
Maybe that's what he just said. He just said, listen, endless money. I'm never going to complain about the luxury tax like the Yankees. They've been complaining about the luxury tax for the past couple of years. I will never. And you get a suite. Boom. Call it done.
Yeah, you got the suite. Exactly. That was a big deal apparently. And I understand the suite thing. Like, then you set a precedent, and it's like the 13th guy on your bench wants a suite, and it's like, no. But how many of the suites?
Yeah. I don't know. If you're that far in, if you're giving a guy over $700 million, and the one thing that I don't think it was the one
he could buy it then. He could buy it then. He could give some money back to the franchise and buy the suite.
That's true, I guess. Yeah, just ask for an extra $1 million a year, I guess.
Yeah. First of all, those suites are a scam. I mean, I have been in one of them once for free. So maybe I'm not the one that should be saying this, because got it. Got
it like that.
And I invited a bunch of college friends, and we hung out in the suite. But nobody's going to pay $4,500 for those on a weeknight against the Diamondbacks at Oracle Park. I mean, it's just not something that's in the cards. But to each their own. Juan Soto, glad that he wants that, and glad that he got it.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I'm not sure I want to go with this. Should we talk about the last week of moves? I mean, does free to the Yankees do anything for you? Does it? what's going on with the Cubs trading for Tucker? What the heck is going on with them? I mean, Yankees, it makes a little more sense. They're a lot more complete, getting free now, getting Devin Williams, but I don't know. I literally don't know what to do with the Cubs at this moment.
Yeah, just on the Yankees real quick. They have makings of a pretty good staff at this point. And who knows, maybe they are the ones also involved in Corbin Burnes. But in regards to the Cubs, I'm confused too by them. I don't understand. Like, I thought Paredes was a good fit there. And Tucker's interesting in a lot of ways. He's a really good hitter. He's a guy who I heard you guys kind of talking about him before. And I agree with everything you said. I think he's going to hit the free agent market at what, 28, 29, something along those lines.
29. Yeah, he turns 28 in January. So
yeah, and I think like the Cubs, they've always had money, right? They have establishments outside the ballpark that have generated a lot of revenue for them, and they've never really acted like a big market team, and they could, but they haven't. And maybe this is a situation where they sign him to an extension and the deal looks a little bit more realistic. But at this point, I'm interested to see. And historically, in the last 10 years, that division has kind of been wide open in a lot of ways.
Right.
And maybe they're just trying to go for it. And anybody that tries to go for it is going to have my blessing. Cincinnati's a good young team. Pittsburgh probably not there yet. St. Louis is kind of like fluctuates every year with the talent that they have. Milwaukee again is kind of perennially involved. So maybe they're just trying to go for it, and I think that's a good thing for the Cubs to do. I think it reflects more on what Houston's future is too, because if you're trading Tucker, then I don't think they're going to re-sign Bregman. Maybe Framber, is he available?
Well, yeah, they got. Paredes is a third base unless you move him to first.
Yeah, I mean,
you could. Maybe this is a chicken move. But then again, why would you trade Tucker for that? That's another strange thing too. It's like, yeah, you took care of a need at third, but Tucker would. I mean, I guess Jordan's probably better, but that's like your number 2 at this moment. Yeah. Like,
what's next? What's next? Are you going to try and like package a deal to send Framber out and then attach it to Jose Altuve's contract and say, if you eat this, we'll give you Framber for a lower price? Like, I don't think anything's off the table. But what a run it has been for Houston. And I'm not saying it's the end of their run, but like this has been as close to a dynasty as possible. And I don't know how Dave feels about the Houston Astros organization as a whole.
But I'm glad it's ending.
Yeah, but just an incredible run of just dominance in the American League, and somehow they only got the 2 championships out of it. And one of them, Dave, yeah.
1.5.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they should sell at this point. I mean, what's the point of just going halfway? If you're going to go all the way and just get what you can, because what's the point of bringing Bregman back if you don't have you have youth? So go with that. And we'll see. Yeah. I just don't see where Bregman's power plays other than Houston, maybe Boston. So that's why I don't think his market is as big either. But I mean, he said he'll move positions too. I mean, he might work out as a second baseman somewhere.
Yeah, no, that's a good point about his power. And he's a guy who just hits the ball, like not a big lift guy. He gets the ball in the air, but it's more of the straight shot type of power. And I think he could be a Met. And then Vientos is not a great defensive third baseman. You can move him to first base, and then that would take away any chance you re-sign Pete Alonso. But again, I don't know what the Mets. I think the Mets need another starter, and that should be more of a priority at this point. But yeah, I don't know. The market is interesting because, whenever you think that there's a fit, that fit gets filled by something else in a creative way, right? Like I feel like Arenado is going to go somewhere. Arenado, again, another guy that could fit the Mets mold for that exact reason. But yeah, I guess we'll have to see.
Yeah. I mean, we still got Teo out there, who we don't know who else is bidding with the Dodgers, so that needs to get resolved too. There's a couple names out there that we still need some resolution.
I actually have a question for you. how does the Conforto, because is the Conforto signing, is he basically going to be the Jason Hayward? Is he going to fill that role on the roster? Does that affect any chance that like Teoscar, because you might be more locked in on Dodgers stuff than I am. Does that affect any Teoscar Hernandez hopes of him coming back?
No, I think it's a more expensive Jason Hayward, basically. And insurance in case Teoscar decides to, get another contract somewhere else. But I don't think it limits them in any way to going after Teoscar.
Yeah, and I can't think of a guy who has done more. I can't think of a guy who's made more money for just like marginal performance than Michael Conforto the last few years. I mean, that guy has just. I'm gonna stay short of calling it highway robbery, but like just mediocrity completely. And he's like, he got the qualifying offer that 1 year. He accepted it. I don't know how he keeps getting these deals. I mean,
listen, man, if you need someone to take a beanball to win the game, he's your man. And we got him. So that's
with that giant ass elbow guard. Yeah.
He's Roger Dorn in Major League 2, who was old and was sent up to the plate to get hit. So yeah, but then if he gets hit, you're going to be without him. That's just
yeah, it's kind of scary. The defense, we were talking about it earlier too. If Conforto's playing left and Teoscar's playing right, that center fielder better be really
it's going to be Pages, and he is not that great of a I think he does well in the corners, right? It's just center. He's not really good defensively.
We're talking about Conforto?
No, Pages.
Pages? Yeah. He wasn't a center fielder. He's a better corner.
Yeah,
we got a bunch of corners.
Then Mookie's going to short. You got Muncy at third.
We got a bunch of guys playing out of position besides Freddie. Everybody else is out of position, apparently.
So who's playing second base?
Lux, probably.
I'm assuming Lux for now,
Lux.
but I heard they were shopping him, so I don't know. He did come up in the Williams trade.
That didn't happen. Right.
Yeah, playing out of position, and this is going to be a hot take, and I understand that he's extraordinarily more valuable in the infield, but my personal take, Mookie Betts is a right fielder. Like, that's just plain and simple. That's how I see him. I think he's maybe above average at second base, maybe a little less at shortstop, but I think he's going to give you what you want from him in right field. And yeah,
I have the perfect solution too, man. If they don't want him to run out there, just get the bullpen cart, drive him out there, drive him back in. There you go. Save his legs.
That is a good solution.
That's
Dave, I think you need to be hired in the Dodgers front office.
I'll be the driver, man.
You'll be the driver. These are solutions that Tyler never had.
Yeah, exactly. Fuck that guy. You can quote me on that.
You could cuss on this, okay?
Yeah, why not? Come on, what do you think? We're on some crazy network?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. Yeah. We're big time. I forgot. We're gonna bleep that out. Shout out to the producers who go through everything. Talking back to Giants stuff. If the Giants don't do the Corbin Burnes route, how do they? Like you said, they're not tearing down. They don't hire Buster Posey to tear it down. So, and they don't sign Willy Adames to tear it down. Willy Adames even says Buster said they're going to make more moves. Where this is a thing. Where do they go if they don't do Corbin Burnes? Do they just get a Jack Flaherty, maybe a Walker Buehler, and then what kind of offensive upgrade do you make from there? Because I would imagine if the Cubs are getting Kyle Tucker and it's looking like Cody Bellinger to New York is getting more and more likely every single day, that they're going to keep Seiya Suzuki. So where else can you upgrade from here?
Yeah, Seiya Suzuki's really good, by the way. Like, I'm very high on him. I think he's an exceptional hitter, and if he goes anywhere like outside of Chicago, like he's gonna, his power I don't think is suited for Chicago, but like if he goes somewhere else where the atmosphere is not much of an issue, he's gonna go off. And it's funny we're talking about the Giants because if he goes there, then it would be like Wrigley.
It's right-handed power though.
Yeah,
it plays a lot better than left-handed, so we're okay.
Yeah, of course. But in terms of pitching, like I've thought about this question a lot. And especially recently, I was talking to a few people at the press conference about this. Like, where would the Giants go without, if they don't get Burnes? And I like Buehler, but also like Buehler's on his second Tommy John, and that's, quite the risk. And I thought that he he played himself into a big contract the way Steven Strasburg did for the Nationals in 2019 with this postseason performance. Buehler kind of did something similar.
You had to use that as an example, huh?
And Steven Strasburg, love him, but but yeah, I think him and Flaherty could be options. But here's an outside the box, kind of thought. The Giants also have a young group with Harrison and Birdsong. And ideally, I think you want those guys in the rotation. Ideally, you're going to have something along the lines of Webb. Buster has already said that Jordan Hicks is going to be in the rotation. That's 2. Right. Harrison, Birdsong, Robbie Ray. Robbie Ray's a lock too. And then Birdsong. So you have 5 hypothetically right there. Hicks is a guy who, you might say he's going to be in the rotation, but look what happened last year. He was great in the first part of the year, and then you realize that he's a relief pitcher being a starter, and he was fizzled out. I would like to see him start again. I think he was actually pretty good. I thought the way he used his sinker, he was very efficient in games. He got a lot of ground balls. That's kind of what the Giants staff has done.
I think he just needed a phantom IL, but at the beginning of last season, all they had was Logan Webb and Jordan Hicks. Yeah. So it was like, you can't go right now. We got fucking nobody.
Yeah.
So,
and they also have a lot of starters on the 40-man too with Mason Black,
right,
and Landon Roop. Like they're going to give those guys chances too. So you do have some depth there. But Flaherty and Buehler, I think wherever they go, they're going to get overpaid just because the tone has been set with Max Fried. The tone has been set with Luis Severino. The tone has been set with the other guy, that Frankie Montas. So that has kind of made the market go up a little bit for starting pitching, especially innings, not just starting pitching, but innings. And those are 2 different things in my opinion. But here's the thought that I had. What about, for the sake of Harrison, for the sake of Birdsong, Justin Verlander or Max Scherzer? Like, what if that is something that the Giants, and again, these are guys that you sign, and if it doesn't work out, they're easy to cut. You're a big market team. You could be fine with cutting the $15 million. You're going to sign them for a year.
Right.
But 1 year of, even a 4 ERA of Justin Verlander, or a kind of unhealthy Max Scherzer, but he gives you 115 innings.
Right.
And then you just fill in the rest with, whatever. It could be a beneficial thing for the clubhouse, for the pitching staff, and for the fan base, kind of like a Randy Johnson when he came to the Giants at the end. That could be Verlander. Right. So
what about something way outside the box? And there's a team that hates both of our teams, who can't pay their players, want to get rid of some stars. Dylan Cease. Any chance they'd look into something like that? I don't know how much the front offices don't like each other, but maybe there's a deal to be had there.
Yeah, I don't think it would be done just because, like you said, it is kind of within the division. But I would not bet against AJ Preller to do anything. Wait, no, that didn't make sense. I would not bet against him for anything. I think that's how it.
We get what you're saying. We're picking up what you're putting down.
Yeah, I would not put anything past him. That's what it is. I would not put anything past AJ Preller. He's a madman.
He's got to land the plane. We're almost there.
It was there.
And I have never seen anybody. This is besides the point. I've never seen anybody with more job security than that guy. Like, that guy has gone through a million different rebuilds. Somehow he got away with giving Eric Hosmer $140 million. Like, I want that guy's job security. I wish, like, he's got like a no trade clause for life, it seems.
A no fire clause.
No fire clause. Yeah.
Like, what is going on? But so that's why he's just reckless. He's like, he just does things, and it's respectable, to be honest. But I think Cease is obviously an impact pitcher, a guy who would be at the top of your rotation. The Giants have the pieces to get it done, I think. They have a lot of guys, young players in kind of no man's land right now with Casey Schmidt and Marco Luciano and Luis Matos and some of the young arms I mentioned, and maybe San Diego wants some of that. But that's an interesting thought. Dylan Cease. Yeah. Could be a thought for the Yankees too, or a team like that.
They could easily kind of get one of those. I feel like Walker Buehler might be the next 3-year deal with a 1-year opt out, or that sort of thing. But even if they did go the route of Justin Verlander or Max Scherzer, they could probably handle that but I think they to legitimately compete, to say you're there to compete with the Padres, they would probably have to have another offensive upgrade. I know they really, really like Bryce Eldridge, but of course you're not going to know until at best midseason. And he's going to be the guy. But I mean, what other offensive upgrade could they make? I mean, I love the whole, Mike Yastrzemski for Seiya Suzuki, so they say under the luxury tax. Obviously, they would probably have to attach a prospect or two to get that deal done, but it doesn't look like they're going to move him now if you're trading for Kyle Tucker. So
yeah, that lineup needs two bats, I think, because you have kind of that one spot where it's like, if you look at the projected lineups on like Roster Resource on Fangraphs or like MLB Network's projected lineups, and MLB Network like gets it wrong because like they're national and they're not really locked in on every team's specific situation. So that's why Grant McCray is the starting left fielder on a lot of these projections.
Ramos is DH, and yeah, it makes sense.
Ramos is the DH hitting eighth. Yeah. But I think that there's that spot that is like filled right now by Wilmer Flores. It's like the DH first base spot with Wade. That's kind of, would be good to add someone. I think whatever you sign Alonso would be expensive. I'm not saying that like he's not worth it, but I don't think 250 million or whatever he's going to get is worth it for Pete Alonso. I think you could get production there anywhere else. But I've heard the Goldschmidt thing. I think he's older. I think the Goldschmidt thing only makes sense because you would have Eldridge come up, let's say by June, July.
See if he has more of that Oracle Park magic.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, Santander from Baltimore, like he's out there and he could easily be an outfielder, and then you just make Mike Yastrzemski either tradable or just a really expensive fourth outfielder and a good fourth outfielder. Like Yaz, despite what the Giants fans say, his numbers at the end of each season end up looking decent. So it's almost like everybody, he's one of those guys where it's like you watch him on a nightly basis and it's like, how is this guy still on this team? He's horrible. And then you look at the year that he has and it's like, oh, a 110 WRC plus. Like he was an above average league hitter who plays great defense. His thing is he just like he doesn't stretch good or whatever, and he's hurt with the lower leg injuries. So I don't know what it is. But I agree, Jesse. I think they need a bat. I don't know who that would be, but they'd need somebody, who could hit in the middle of that order with Adames and with Chapman and with Ramos.
And when it comes to those guys, the expendable ones, the Yastrzemskis, the Wades, and the Wilmer Floreses of the world, if that's the right way to say it, who do you think might be the one to get traded? I would think they would want to do Yastrzemski just because of that's the most expensive
guy
they're paying.
Yeah.
But it would seem like clubhouse-wise, do you think Wade's that guy? I feel like Wilmer Flores is like a leader. Mike Yastrzemski is like a leader. Is that going to be weird?
Well, I don't think Flores has any value to make him just the guy in a trade, right? Like the centerpiece of a trade. He was hurt last year. His knee was bothering him. He just didn't have any lower body in his approach. And I think against lefties, he's still a guy who could be effective. But the thing about Lamont Wade Jr. is that he would be a great short-term option until Bryce Eldridge comes up, right? And he's a guy that gets on base. In the lineup projections I mentioned, he's usually at the top of the order. He always has good first halves. He always has bad second halves. He's a decent glove at first, which is surprising considering he's an outfielder by trade. So I think that he would be a good short-term option, even ahead of Goldschmidt in my mind, because then you don't even have to make a move. But there's something missing in this lineup, and I can't put a finger on what it is. But and the thing about Eldridge is that he's a gifted hitter and everything, but he went to high school, drafted out of high school, never played a position in high school. He was always pitching and DHing. He was a two-way guy in the draft, and now he's only hitting. But So they're kind of teaching him how to play first base on the fly. Is he your DH? You know,
why not just put him in left field?
Yeah, and
he's
you
like
know what?
He's like a young. I feel like it's so weird that like young, like in shape guys are DHs. It's like you can't play left field. You can't like do like something. I mean, like Michael Conforto plays left field.
Yeah,
right? Like
I remember, when the Giants.
Why does Michael Conforto keep catching strays?
He is catching.
He's a terrible outfielder.
Catching strays right from the chopper, but he remember the Giants had an outfield in 2010, and it was like Pat Berlin left, Aubrey Huffin right, center field Andres Torres, and like Andres Torres was like spent, like that guy was getting everything. But I mean, it's a decent point, and here's something I just thought of. You know, it would be a really big shot in the arm is if Marco Luciano starts the year in AAA. Shows that he could play the outfield, shows that he could have some of that power return, and he becomes a shot in the arm in the middle of that lineup.
That guy.
And he becomes Alfonso Soriano, the guy who was the infielder, who was not good in the infield, who became a good left fielder, Alfonso Soriano. By the way, incredible batting stance for Alfonso Soriano.
Oh, yeah.
He was,
Yeah, I feel like the Giants have a path if so many things go right. It's just, if Marco Luciano turns out to be that guy, or even just a decent, really good hitter, Heliot Ramos is legit, Fitzgerald is still legit, then it looks like everyone is still not only above average, but maybe even like a tick above average, like just like a really good everyday player. They just don't have like a guy. And if Eldridge is that guy, then, at this moment, settle a debate for us right now, Steven. Who's better, the Diamondbacks or the Giants? Go quick.
Diamondbacks.
No way.
Thank you.
No way.
Yes. I don't even think they have incredible young.
Gone.
He is gone. Yeah. I mean, and Gallen, probably going to get trade. Well, I don't want to say that, but, if they choose to go in that direction. But didn't they win like 90 games? I mean,
exactly.
I think
90 games.
It's apples and oranges, though. I mean,
I think you're riding high from the Adames signing, and you're thinking that, but
yeah.
I think
the Diamondbacks are a bit
the Giants' worst position was what? Second base, right?
Shortstop too. Yeah, not good up the middle.
Yeah, but then they kind of, in a way, they kind of fix those two problems. Yeah, they definitely need more. But I don't know. I just feel like, I don't know. Maybe I'm trying to talk myself into maybe trying to get for a playoff position. And you have to at least be better than Diamondbacks.
If the Giants won 85 games and the Diamondbacks won 90, I would think about it. But the Giants, they were polar opposites, and both you get Adames, and the Diamondbacks haven't done anything yet, right?
No, they've lost pieces.
No.
They lost pieces, right?
2 large pieces.
But still, I don't think it's at the point where you could say that they're better, because there's still off season left for them to get better. What if they bring Goldschmidt back? He's not Christian Walker, but and that was not me making a point. That was me just thinking like it literally just came to my mind. Oh my God, what if they get Goldschmidt back? So I was not making a point there, I promise. Because that
was from 3 conversations ago.
That point actually would have gone away from my argument, because I don't think they would have gotten better by him. But yeah, there's still off season for them to sign Pete Alonso or something.
If the Giants whiff on Burnes and they end up with Buehler, who they have to overpay with, are you guys still happy with that offseason, a little more disillusioned with it because you have to overpay for Buehler? Which I love Buehler. He's one of my favorite Dodgers ever, but I don't know if he's fooling everybody with the postseason, because the regular season he was a completely different pitcher. So you're paying him based on
Tommy John, right? So it's like they're supposed to not be themselves, really.
Of course. But do you believe that the small sample size is a new pitcher and that's what you're paying for? And if you're wrong, then you're stuck with that deal. So, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't think, because of that, I don't think he's going to get 7 or 8 years.
No way.
Yeah, but no. You're probably giving him 3, but I mean, the prices are astronomical for, look at Montes.
There's going to be an opt-out after either year 1 or year 2 with Buehler.
You got the best framing catcher in baseball. He'll be okay. Like I'm honestly, I feel like the Giants can always piece together a rotation and it'd be decent just because of the park, their catcher, and that sort of thing. It's just like, how are you going to score some runs?
But if that's your off season with just Adames as your pickup, your bat, I don't know. Are you?
I'd be cautiously optimistic. I'd be optimistic because I want to.
I don't think
you lost Soler and you're basically exchanging it with Adames, so.
Soler didn't do very good with us.
I know, I know. If he had been what he was supposed to be, then it's a different story. But
I think a healthy Wilmer Flores would be better than a Soler than he was last year.
Well, I could say that about anybody. A healthy blank could be really good. Like any team could say that, right? So
yeah, but I mean, he's shown it. I mean, he's had good seasons. Wilmer's not just some bum. I mean, he's not great, but he's not like a bum either.
He is not a Dodger. You're right.
100%.
That was a bad joke. I mean, the thing about Buehler is like he's not really the type of pitcher that they would go after. Like he's like he uses his four seam a lot. Like the Giants like primarily go after guys that get ground balls and usually have sinkers. And Corbin Burnes has the cutter that he uses, and that generates ground balls. So maybe that's a different scenario, but. And again, maybe that changes with the new guy in charge with Buster. And you know, they still have the same pitching philosophy and pitching coach in place. JP Martinez, who replaces Brian Price, but was in-house. But yeah, I mean, pitching is so difficult because you're going to overpay. Kind of what Dave was saying. You're going to overpay for a Walker Buehler. So.
Yeah, but I mean, at the same time, I mean, who cares?
And everybody in free agency is getting. Yeah, I was just.
Yeah, like I mean, like if even if he signed a $10 million contract for 1 year with the Giants versus a $25 million for 1 year, like yeah, technically it's over, but it's still the same guy. Exactly. You know, like if we're just speaking in those, and the Giants can afford it, so it's like, I mean, I want Burnes a lot, and I think if they do one. If they get Burnes, I think they have an identity, and I think that they're definitely a contender for a wild card spot. But I don't know.
I don't know how much better they got because you're replacing what Snell gave you with Burnes, which means you're not really getting better. You're back at the same spot.
Snell also didn't really give you a first half.
Hold on.
Yeah. But he was all world the second half. It was just that the team was so far gone, it didn't matter.
First half. He was either not on the team or he was so bad that he was a liability. But second half, I mean, obviously he was just so damn good. But, you know, and it made his numbers good. But, I mean, like, those games still count.
We could be having that Diamondbacks discussion, and I'm being dead serious about this. I know, again, this is bordering upon the what-if conversation, which I actually like having. It's fun. But if he had a spring training, and I think he obviously learned from last offseason. That guy put pen on paper. He put pen on paper real quick.
Right.
But he's a guy who, like, if he had a spring training and he came out of the gates and was like even half of how bad he was, like he had like an 11 ERA at some point through a handful of starts. Like if he even struggled a little less, I mean that the Giants are in way less of a hole with the way they use their pitching. Because that Blake Snell's specific rotation spot was so bad. Like the guys that filled in and pitched in his spot when he wasn't there, when he was on the injured list, it was so bad. They got literally zero. It was a must loss. It was an automatic loss every single time. And if he went in there and, you know, Blake Snell's such a weird case because he like ironically went deep in the games and he's not even known for that towards the second half. But he would have put the Giants in a much better position to make the playoffs. And like that sounds like a stretch, but like he was that important and they missed out that much on him having a traditional first half.
Yeah. There were 9 games out. I mean, a whole half of the season of 2 starting pitchers. I'm not saying that team for sure would have made the playoffs, but it would have been a lot closer than it was. And you got Willy Adames. I think the team is, I mean, they need another starting pitcher, but at this point where they are in the development too of the young guys, I think they're going to be a better team.
But you also got the rest of the NL getting much better too, man. It just the
Yeah.
NL just keeps getting better and better, while the AL just looks like the Yankees and everybody else. So,
we got, no matter what, last year we got pecker slapped by the Dodgers. I think we won maybe one series and got swept multiple times. Like I can't imagine it getting any worse against the Dodgers.
Yeah, the way to beat the Dodgers this year is going to be to pitch to them, and that's
and to sign maybe Christian Walker. Maybe that would beat the Dodgers.
Yeah, that's the way to neutralize the Dodgers, is to pitch to them and expose the holes that they have on their team in terms of their lineup, right? And get your outs when you need to against the Confortos and against the Pajes and like those guys, right?
I feel like Conforto is going to destroy us every single time.
That's 1,000% coming. I mean, it's coming early in the season too. First matchup at Oracle Park, he's hitting one of them Covey Cove Dave.
Yeah.
Nobody has it worse than the Dodgers when it comes to that, though. Like, ex-players kill us. If they're just bench players that nobody has heard of, they always come back to bite us. Always, for some reason.
Yeah, and then for the Giants, it's always the bench guys that kill the Dodgers, right?
Yes.
So it's always like, remember Brandon Hicks one year took Kershaw, did Brett Pill, all the guys who are now working in real estate.
That's a nice
Slater, who's no longer on the team, thankfully, but he's
Austin Slater. Yeah, Mookie Betts' podcast. They said, "Who's the toughest hitter to face?" He's like, San Francisco has got the weird platoon guys: Slater, Flores. And then you have so many other people in baseball to pick from, and Austin Slater subbed really good that night. So
yeah.
I
mean,
and now Austin Slater's a star right now in Chicago with the White Sox.
Can't take him to the promised land, baby.
Yeah.
And maybe in closing this Giants conversation, how did you feel the Farhan era is kind of getting painted at this moment? I feel like, I don't know, like I feel like there's times where it's like he doesn't get enough credit because Fitzgerald's up, you got Bailey. There's a lot of good things that he did do. But obviously, Will Wilson just got given away to another team who they paid $12 million for. What are your thoughts on the whole Farhan era being gone?
There's something to be like. You're right. He does deserve credit on a lot of things, but there's something to be said about being able to build roster spots 15 to 26. He could do that better than anybody.
Right.
But building roster spots 1 through 15, it was a struggle. And it was a struggle to find the right price on certain players and being picky about that. It was a struggle to bring free agents in. And at the end of the day, somebody could think that Farhan is doing a good job. And to me, I was kind of indifferent. I think if they stuck with him another year, I would have been indifferent. But at the end of the day, like, these are the San Francisco Giants. The franchise that is like historic in so many different ways. A big market in the sport. A brand that is just so important with California and, even throughout the country, right? It's just one of those teams in baseball. Like the Dodgers are, like the Red Sox are, like the Yankees are. And it couldn't go on. I mean, no matter if he was doing a good job, which again, I think his last offseason, this last season was not on him. That's my hot take. This last season, he went and got Matt Chapman. He went and got Blake Snell, right? He went and got Jordan Hicks. He went and brought guys in. Jung-Hoo Lee. He brought these guys in. This is a good team on paper on opening day. And then things just, like, he did nothing after that, right? So how can it be him if he didn't put, like, that's my thing. It's like executives, and even managers to an extent, there's always going to be a scapegoat.
Right.
And Farhan, like, his job was done on opening day, right? What else did he do? Because I would always think it's like, Giants are on a roll. Farhan's a genius.
Right.
Farhan does nothing, and then the Giants go on a cold streak for 2 weeks. Now all of a sudden he should get fired. It's like he executives have less of a hand when the season starts. Now, when the trade deadline comes up and you're picking to, you're trying to figure out when, to choose a path, then, he becomes a little bit more involved. But he did what he was supposed to do during the offseason, and he brought guys in, and they just didn't perform, or there were some injuries. So as far as I'm concerned, like, there was nothing else he could have done because his job was done.
Yeah, I think sometimes when it comes to like the scapegoating of Farhan, it's like, did he not spend, or was his like whole pitch like did ownership hire him because they thought they didn't have to spend, or maybe it was his whole pitch?
I thought he did spend multiple off seasons. I thought he spent money. There was the one off season.
I mean, I think he had like a payroll of like 160 for like the first 3 years, didn't he?
First 3 years, yeah, 160. They did not pay anybody, but then they extended Crawford. They extended Belt, the qualifying offer. And then they went and got Rodon. They had a few off seasons there where they came out looking pretty good and they spent money. Like if you look at the off seasons, the Giants were like top 5, in at least 2 of the past like 3 off seasons or something like that. I'll have to double check. Right. So they did spend money. The problem was they didn't spend it the way they wanted to spend it. They were every offseason they had to be forced to go with their plan B or C, right?
Right.
Correa falls through. I mean, the pivots were like Mitch Haniger and Conforto, right? The pivots from Aaron Judge and Ohtani. The next guy they went with was so far off the map where it's like, so they ended up spending their money, but they didn't spend it on their plan A, sometimes not even their plan B. They spent it on their plan C. So they did spend money. But the thing is, 6 years of this, 6 years of Farhan Zaidi, again, whether you think he did a good job, the results speak for themselves. This is 3 years of 500 or a little bit below baseball.
Right.
And there's like, you can't argue. That's what it is. That's what it was. Like his tenure was mediocre. And that's that's not even an objective, or that's not even a subjective statement. That is literally true. They were aside from 2021, where I don't know what the hell happened, but
cheating lab, baby, bring it back.
He had a mediocre tenure, and that's okay. That's okay. Right. He's a great baseball guy. I think Farhan Zaidi's very smart, and I think he is good enough to lead another baseball operations department in the near future. And if you don't believe that, just go read Ken Rosenthal's article about him being linked to go back to the Dodgers, right?
Right.
Like Andrew Friedman, thinks very highly of this guy. Billy Beane said, God, I hope nobody hires him, when he was in Oakland.
Right.
So, I mean, he's a smart guy. It's just, it didn't work out in San Francisco, and it happens. Right. I don't think I was never calling for his head, but at the end of the day, the results are what the results are, and that's who you are at the end of the day. So
he just never pivoted. That was my problem. It was like, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing and expecting different results. It was like the same thing. And it's like, it's not working. So you got to try something else. Yeah. You're a numbers guy. Look at where the numbers are. Same shit. Let's just do something different.
And you know what else wasn't working is the way some of the young players were treated, right?
Right.
You have
the 3 innings every day for Kyle Harrison in the minor leagues. Like that was all pitchers.
They thought
what are we doing here?
They're like, our pitchers in the minor leagues, they're not going to go past 45 pitches. Okay. Kyle Harrison, he's on a pitch count, and his pitch count's like 45, 50. And then his first start up in the big leagues, he's like, Kyle Harrison, pitch number 90. Like, how is that getting a guy ready for the big leagues when he's been on a pitch count all year in the minors? And then Bob Melvin, obviously doesn't know he was on a pitch count. Hey, kid, go. And then it's like the most he's ever pitched since, that little league tournament in Ripon or whatever. But it's just one of those things where it's like, the platoon stuff too, right? Ramos's first year in 2022. Dodgers come into town. Giants are facing 2 lefties. Arias, this was a few years ago. Arias and Kershaw, right? 2 lefties. They call him up because he's a right-handed bat. Monday, he's back in Sacramento. He's back in Sacramento on Monday.
Or they have him just on the bench. They'll have young players on the bench for weeks without sending him down.
I think that's more of a Bob Melvin thing.
I don't know, but it's just like the thing that drove me insane was the week-long Giants, the Mike Fords that would come up for one series. And it's just like, why not just give it to a young guy and let him run? Or I don't know. That was my only issue with the Farhan era.
Yeah.
The
waiver claims. The waiver claims, you get like a left-handed bat who is claimed off waivers by the Mariners, and like you only get him because the forecast says rain, and he's been really good in rainy games, and then he's released when the rain's gone. Right? It's like sunny all of a sudden, and he's like back on the Mariners. Like,
and does
let
that
me
make the
ask you
clubhouse?
both then.
Go for it.
Let me ask you both because I already asked Jesse this, but everybody's excited in San Francisco because Posey's there, and he made the first big move with Adames. What would make for a good? What would you be happy if he accomplished during his contract? Like, what's a good tenure for him? Is it making the playoffs year in, year out, or because Jesse also says he hates talking World Series or bust. It's a weird way to look at the season, but
right.
Some teams
we're nowhere in that conversation, but yes, it's 100%.
I don't know how much like player contracts. I guess if a team wins a World Series, you'll say, "Oh, it was worth it." Like Giants fans do that a lot with Barry Zito, right? Barry Zito had just a rough tenure with the Giants, and then he had an incredible NLCS game against the Cardinals in St. Louis. And then he outdueled Justin Verlander in Game 1 of the World Series in 2012. And they're like, okay, the contract was worth it.
100%.
But I think it's different. Baseball's different than other sports in that regard, because in the NBA, like if a guy goes to a city and then doesn't win a championship, it's like, how did he not get that done? For baseball, like I think Adames is just one of, a bunch of things that need to go right. And I think for him, for it to be a good deal, it's got to be more of the individual stuff. And I think it's got to be a really good first few years on the contract. And then if you have a mediocre or bad last 3 at the last end of those 7, that's 7, you live with it, because that's all contracts, right? I mean, every team at the end of a contract is trying to get out of it. I mean, what contract has been so good to where it's like, especially pitching, right? What starting pitching deals have actually worked out? John Lester,
maybe Max Scherzer,
Zach Greinke, and Max Scherzer. Exactly. So same thing with position players. So I think you're just betting on a really good, first 4 or 5 years. And
I think Dave, you were talking about tenure, right?
I know he's talking about Adames, but I'm just talking to the front office and Posey.
Oh, Posey. Okay.
Yeah. What would you view as a good tenure for him?
I think that perennial playoff contenders, I think that would be what would have to be justified. When you talk,
I think he gets a little leeway though for a couple years, right?
I think so too. You are in the and we talk about this with our political system, like who inherits what, and Buster inherited whatever Farhan Zaidi left him. And whether that's good or bad, you still get the leeway, and the leeway is going to even be stronger because of his name. His name's Buster Posey. And the thing is, the one thing that is interesting about this is like everybody is hired to be fired. Everybody that ever works a job is hired to be fired. Now, how can you fire Buster Posey?
Yeah, there's no way.
And it's one of those things where it's like
they're just gonna have to beg him to step down.
No, I think like he's a guy that is like smart and knows, he's self-aware, right?
Right.
He retired at the top of his game in 2021. He walked away from baseball at the top of his game. He walked away from baseball in the COVID year, 2020. I think he is smart enough to know, okay, this hasn't worked out. I'm going to continue to be part of ownership, but I'll just not run the team anymore. So, but I think perennial contenders is what would be successful, I think. And in regards to the Adames thing too. Yeah.
I don't think a World Series is necessarily would can constitute like it was a great tenure for him. But if we're constantly in the playoffs, even if we miss a couple years, but you're constantly in the playoffs, you're constantly in the dance, and he drafts and develops a couple good players. I think you call it a good good tenure.
Yeah, the drafts have to be good, and the international signings. I mean, when was the last time the Giants had just an Acuna come up in their system, or that's another thing is you don't draft good when you're finishing 500. And I don't understand the draft these days because the White Sox have the 10th overall pick this upcoming year. And like
they lost for nothing.
Like, I don't know how that's competitive balance at all, but I guess like, I mean, we want to make sure everything's competitive balanced, and we're having a team with that amount of losses pick 10th in the draft. It's unfair, but I guess it does make sense it's an incentive for them not to lose that many games ever again, but that's beside the point. But yeah, they got to draft well. I think so. I think that goes without saying.
Well, Steven, I really appreciate you coming on. We'll have to do this again soon. Congratulations on all your news breaks. You're growing up right in front of our eyes, and you can bring a tear to my eye, man. But yeah, congratulations on all the stuff that's been going on. And yeah, man, hope to see you soon. Thanks for coming on.
Well, Jesse, I have some napkins if you want to wipe away those tears. You know,
I don't know, napkins hanging around in the places I lived when I was your age. I don't think I want to use your napkins.
Man, what is this viewership? Like, who is your audience here? We have to hear your audience. I mean, I have to see the demographics of this
right.
show.
I'll send it over to you.
So the napkins, let's get off of that for a second. We'll get off. Pause. But I appreciate you guys having me on. Dave, great to meet you.
Great to meet you.
I apologize that you have to put up with Jesse over here. Jesse, did we do a Giants trivia thing one time? Were you a part of that once? Or what did we do? Yeah.
Yes.
It was like Jeopardy or something.
Something like that. Yeah. I pretty much dominated, I think.
I think you won. Yeah.
That's actually true. And I don't know how I won because I'm so bad with on the spots. I remember there was one that I was like, oh, I got this. And then right when it was my turn, I completely blanked. So yeah, I think I did win. That's true.
Yeah. What is the name of the ballpark? Pac Bell.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it was a blast to be on with you guys. And I look forward to being on again.
Yeah. Hopefully we do it again. And next time we're in the playoffs or something, you know?
Yeah, both the teams or just the Dodgers?
Both teams are in the playoffs.
Yeah, we'll make it there. We'll get there eventually.
Yeah. Although I would like it if it was like a sadder podcast because you would be sad that you missed the playoffs. I would enjoy that as well. But you know, if we're both in there, that'd be cool too.
You seem like a very tolerable Dodger fan.
I think so. At least here over the internet, not so much.
He's a little more savage over the internet.
Yeah. Well, I guess I am too.
He's been really mean to John Heyman. You know, I know you know that situation pretty well.
I can't believe it.
Can't even believe it.
Yeah. Oh my gosh! But the thing that on Twitter afterwards was insanity.
Yeah, I was in the middle of that kind of. I replied to him. I said, "You got to delete that. You can't have that on your. You can't have that."
And he was like, I didn't know the words. I misread the letter.
No, so, and then he accused the guy of editing the tweet where it's like, John, it is 12 a.m. on the East Coast. You need to go to bed. And literally, you got to probably catch a flight the next day to Dallas. And you're up here arguing and you know, I don't think the guy had any intent, but you can't have that tweet on your timeline.
I mean, he had the worst night, and then the next day or whatever it was, he's the first one to high five Soto and Boris.
Yeah, so, what a 48 hours for John Heyman. Yeah. I mean, that guy's living the life. I mean, I gotta know what I almost said I gotta know what his personal life is, but we would have gone down the napkin route again. I want to know I want to know John Heyman's I got to get him on the podcast. You guys got to get him on the podcast.
Oh man, no, there's no way. Dave's already blocked on Twitter, and I've talked a lot of crap, and I already talked shit about the guy that's kind of like bombarded him and talked crap about him.
Your first question,
kind of sad. Like how you
John Heyman
like that?
Your first question, John Heyman, away from your cell phone and away from Twitter, what do you like to do? Like, genuinely, I want to know. Like, is this guy golfing? Is he going out? Like imagine you're at a bar and you just see John Heyman at a bar in New York. Like that's incredible. I wonder what he does. I really wonder what he does in his pickleball. Like, is he one of those guys that, you know, there's a whole thing in New Yorkers hate pickleball players taking up the tennis courts. So John Heyman is somewhere
hobby.
doing something.
I guarantee
it would be really funny if he was that active. I doubt he's that active, but
no
it would be
way.
funny.
I doubt so. Is he married? Does he have kids? So we have to see what he looks like interacting with his kids. I mean, this is all a question.
He stays at home.
I've never
and he,
thought
like,
about
paints
this. This is true.
action
Mini
figures.
Heymans. Where are they at?
Yeah, mini Heyman. There
Heymans.
might be like a Christopher Heyman somewhere, right? who's chilling and is on his phone and trying to report something for baseball. And I don't know.
Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
Well, Steven, on that note, thank you so much, man. We'll be seeing you soon.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
And thank you guys so much for listening, hanging out with us on this extra special. It's supposed to be a special, like, winter meetings. What did the Giants and Dodgers do more? We didn't do anything. So, but thanks for hanging out with us.
Yeah, thank you for hanging out with us. If you're a Dodger fan, you didn't listen to much because we haven't done much. But hopefully we get the Teoscar deal done, and hopefully we get Tanner Scott. Who knows? Maybe they'll do something. You never know with Friedman. And for the Giants, hopefully they get nobody else.
Burnes is coming. I know it. But while we're waiting for the Burnes, we're waiting for the Burnes news. Make sure to subscribe to us on your favorite podcasting platform, as well as YouTube. Follow us on all the socials, and we'll see you guys next week. Dave, do you got anything else?
Nope. Other than please, Teoscar, come back, because the options after you are not great. So we need some Teoscar back.
Oh yeah. Well, I hope it doesn't happen, because that's the way the world works. All right. Thank you guys. See you next week.
Hey guys.